Good morning, everyone, and thanks for being here with us this morning or noon if you're on the East Coast for this New Camp Open House. We're excited to have you all to let you know a little bit more about who we are, what we do, and see if our program is for you. My name is Karim El Nagar. I am New Camp CEO and one of the founders. And together with me today is Ludo, our Chief Product Officer and our Chief Learning Officer.
Two
And
hats.
two hats, yeah.
Yeah.
And he'll tell you a little bit more about the curriculum in a few minutes. But I want to get us going this morning with just a brief intro of what New Camp is about. And then we'll turn it over to Ludo later. So we are the most affordable and the most local and flexible program out there today in the US. We offer a flexible online and weekend coding bootcamp. And really, this is part of our social mission to help everyone aspiring to change careers to enter the digital economy. That's what we're about. And we do this by offering quality web development to people that either can't afford it today or simply don't have access to it because they're not in big cities. So the way we do this is through a very different model than what has been available so far. If you look at the landscape of coding bootcamps today, you can choose to learn to code online. And that's a very flexible, actually a very affordable, sometimes even it's a free way of doing it. The other advantage is that it's available everywhere, obviously. But on the other hand, it's really difficult to complete a full curriculum on your own online without any support when you're stuck in a problem in your code. And quite frankly, without a support structure, just to give you the motivation to go through it. So what we've seen is that the success rate of those programs are no more than 3 to 5%. And it's probably a great way to sort of get a quick intro for a few weeks. But if you're serious about pursuing a career in coding, that's probably going to be really hard for you to do it this way. And a lot of people then turn to the more traditional approach, which is the traditional coding boot camps. These are full-time programs that usually require you to stop working. They're actually pretty selective for some of them, so it's sort of hard to get in. They're great programs if you can afford it. If you live in a big city that offers such a program, and if you are in a position where you can actually quit your job for 5 months to go through it. And what we've seen is for a lot of people that just doesn't work. So if it works for you, that's great. But if you're part of the group of people that are looking to change careers but can't afford to quit their job, probably can't afford to put in $12,000 into that program, then we've come up with an alternative that's a hybrid model. And what we offer at New Camp is a model where you can continue to work during the week, and you can learn online with New Camp during the week. But then you still have the structure of traditional boot camps, meaning you've got a weekly progression, and you actually have the support environment with an instructor to keep you going, to keep you motivated, and to help you out when you need it. And you meet on Saturdays, so you actually physically in connection with your fellow students, your classmates, and your instructor. So we really bring the best of both worlds. That allows us to offer a program that is highly affordable. It's $1,620 for the full stack program in early bird pricing. We'll tell you a little bit more about that later. And it's available in many cities just because we have a very lightweight model, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that as well. So something really disruptive, very different, very affordable, and it prompts a lot of people to ask us, are you guys for real? How can you offer this at that low price? Well, it is because we have a very different and sort of lower cost model. So we started in the state of Washington about 2 years ago. We have 5 cities that are, excuse me, that are running in Washington state where we've delivered 50 boot camps already. That's over 200 workshops on Saturdays. We have a number of instructors that have been with us now for some of them 2 years. So we've got a lot of experience that we've built in Washington State that we're now expanding to the rest of the country. So if you're here with us today, it's probably you might be from Washington State, but more likely you're from another state, and you're seeing that there is a boot camp that's being offered in your city. We have expanded to 7 new cities on the 5th of August. We have at least 14 more that we're planning to open on September 9th. Depending on demand, we'll open more, and we'll tell you a little bit more about the mechanism here to open up new cities based on how many students are registered. But our goal is definitely to offer new camp across the country, make this program available to as many students as possible across the country. And we do this by working with co-working spaces. That's part of our model. I'll tell you a little bit more about that as well. Before we go to the logistics, the programs themselves, we have 3. We have an intro program, which we call Web Development Fundamentals. It's a 4-week program. It's really designed to help you get a feel for what coding is about and decide whether or not this is something for you. A lot of people who reach out to us ask us, well, I'm not too sure whether I can do it. Do I have the, enough sort of basic math skills to go through this? Is it for me? Well, for a pretty affordable price, $320 in early bird pricing, and today you get an extra 10%. You can find out. You can spend 4 weeks and get to understand what coding is about. Get to see if that's something you get excited about during the week. Talk to an instructor that's somebody who is plugged into that industry that will also give you clues. And then if that is something you're excited about, then you can move into one of our 2 advanced programs. By the way, there's no prerequisite to go through the intro. So if you have basics in coding, you can of course go into the advanced programs right away. And they're basically 2 flavors of a similar curriculum. Ludo will tell you more about both of them. But what's important is those are the programs that will get you in a position to apply for an entry-level position in the web development industry. So you can apply to positions that are junior web development. Those are the 2 programs that get you to that skill level. And so the format itself of the boot camps is basically a number of classes. So the first program is just 1 class, but the advanced programs are 4 to 5 classes, 3 to 4 classes actually, of 4 to 5 weeks each. And every week is a similar structure. During the week, you go through the content that you need to learn and where you develop your skills. So you got videos, presentations, exercises, and also assignments that you need to hand in. And then all of this builds to prepare for your Saturday workshop, where you meet with your instructor and you meet physically also with your classmates, part of your group. It's a small group, maximum 12 students for to have the best learning experience possible. And you spend 4 hours there, just sort of capping the learnings of the week and producing a more comprehensive assignment that will be graded as well by your instructor. So it's 1 to 3 hours per day during the week. So it's actually a lot of work, especially if you're already working full time. But that's the price to pay to actually build the skills that you'll need to transition career. So be prepared to work hard, but at the same time, you'll find that it's fun, it's exciting, and it's also really easier to do that as a group with fellow students and with the support of your instructors, both during the week online and then of course on the weekend. Talked a little bit about workshop locations. We want to make sure that you have a positive, energizing experience on the weekend on Saturday. So we've picked partner locations that are really nice co-working spaces that align with our social mission. So oftentimes they're excited to have a coding boot camp in their premises. They're excited, to make coding more affordable in their community. And those are spaces that are, not only nice to work in, but also spaces where you'll find a lot of people that are tied to the local software development community. You got a lot of independent consultants and coders that take advantage of these spaces. So it's also a good way for you to start networking with other people from the industry. All right, so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ludo to tell you a little bit more about the curriculum itself.
Great, thank you. And by the way, great, lots of questions online. We will actually get to them very soon. So stick around. We will be done with the lecturing portion of it in about 10, 15 minutes, and then we'll dive into the questions. So keep asking them online. So the curriculum. So Karim covered with you that we have 3 different boot camps. And really, those 3 boot camps are a combination of 5 different modules. So if you were to do everything we have to offer from beginning to end, you will do those 5 modules. And let me actually go into the details. The first thing to notice is we cover JavaScript. This is really the #1 language across everything, actually, for the last 5 years. And that's the #1 language for web development. So it's a natural choice for us to teach JavaScript throughout the curriculum, throughout the boot camps. And if you remember, we have a beginner's boot camp at the beginning. And that's actually the very first module. It's really to teach you the fundamentals of web development, which are those 3 things: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. 2 of the 4 weeks are actually focusing on JavaScript itself. We find that when students are challenged throughout the bootcamp, it's often in the fundamentals of how to use JavaScript. And so we actually start very early on going deep with JavaScript teaching. So that's a 4 weeks bootcamp. It's great for beginner. It's not enough. Like, you will not be able to aspire to a different job or enter the industry just doing those 4 weeks. It's really meant as a way to prepare you for either the front-end bootcamp or the full-stack bootcamp. Now, if you look at those 2, another thing to notice straight away is the full-stack bootcamp is really the front-end bootcamp plus an additional module. So full-stack includes front-end. That additional module we call the backend or server-side module, and I'll get to that in a minute. Now, if you look at that succession of modules, they are each 4 to 5 weeks long. And if you look at the very first one, Bootstrap, it's based off JavaScript, as everything else, actually. And it was developed several years ago by Twitter. And the point of Bootstrap is to really help you create what we call responsive websites in a very easy way. Now, what is a responsive website, you may wonder? Well, a responsive website is a website that will look great on a large screen, a TV, for example, on a smaller screen, like a laptop, and on a very small screen, like a mobile phone. And the idea is you will really build the website once using Bootstrap, and it will then respond to the screen size and kind of redimension the elements on the screen dynamically. So that's, I mean, if you play around with many sites, if you are full screen and then you play with, decreasing the screen gradually, you'll see all the elements rearranging themselves. That's typically what Bootstrap does. It's fun. It's a great introduction to web development. It has a downside, though, which is it only handles responsive design or responsive websites. It really won't help you to something very important, which is build a business logic. It won't help you access data. Like, you will not be able to retrieve a collection of products or handle a shopping cart just using Bootstrap. And so obviously that's why we teach you React right after that. React is really the tipping point of our bootcamp in a way that it's the most challenging and also the most rewarding experience that you will learn. It was built a couple of years ago, actually, I think 3 years ago by Facebook, and has taken the JavaScript world by storm. It's the #1 framework for JavaScript nowadays. And what it does, really, it's what actually Bootstrap could not do, which is help you write business logic. And what I mean by business logic is how to display your products, how to display your price, how to maybe display a different price if you're like us in an early bird date or if you're past that date. See, it's really everything about how you will actually bring your application or website together to display it in front of your users. The good news is React uses Bootstrap for everything that is responsive. So really your skills are building up, I will say, across the curriculum. And so once you've learned React, you will have a responsive, dynamic website. And next, that's what I call when the magic happens, and it's React Native. So React Native, as you can imagine by the words, it's kind of an evolution of React. And what it does is it's actually taking your code, your website, packaging it into a mobile application that you can publish onto the Apple Store or Google Play Store. And users can actually download it like if it was a real app, like it looks like a real app on their phone. But what it is really, it's your website that you've developed from the beginning, repackaged. And so that's really magical in a way. That's the power, again, of JavaScript and those frameworks, is really the ability to kind of merge and transform to actually support multiple experiences. Now, the thing is, once you're a mobile app, you actually have access to way more possibilities. Like you can access the phone GPS, you can access the phone camera, you can access the microphone, you can access the accelerometer. I mean, there's so many devices, features, and functions that you can use that really your website now has an ability to expand in terms of what it does and how you interact with the user. So very exciting. Once you've done those three, you've really covered everything that is to know about user experience. What you haven't done yet is, well, if you have data, where are you going to put that data? In which server, on which cloud? And then how will actually your app communicate with that server? And that's really the last module. That's what we cover in the server side, Node.js, MongoDB, and Express. That's part of full stack. And that's really telling you how you are going to handle your users, how they're going to authenticate on your app, how you're going to handle payments, for example, how you're going to handle shopping cart, making sure, for example, that that shopping cart is saved in a database so that the user can retrieve it no matter where, which devices he's using. And so that's a very important element. If you want to be what we call a Unicode developer that can do pretty much everything from beginning to end, it's that last module. Now, some people are wondering, well, which one should I choose between front-end and full stack? It's not clear. There's actually an interesting decision factor here, which is very much how much affinity do you have with designing beautiful experiences? Or said simply, do you have an artistic vibe? Someone who specializes in front-end will be someone who will really think deeply about how good a user experience is going to be and where should the element be placed and how should they look. And for example, that's not me. I'm not good at designing websites. I'm making them usable, beautiful. I don't know how to do that. I would want to work with a designer for that. So I am personally a full stack developer. But some people who really have an affinity and I would say the artistic vibe may actually not care too much about the server-side aspect. They will really want to spend the time on designing beautiful experiences and then let someone else deal with the server, deal with database, etc. So there's nothing wrong in being a front-end versus a full stack. And there's actually no real upside in the industry. Like you'll find positions for either types of role. It's really about, are you good at designing really beautiful, usable website, or are you not? And what's great about it is there's an answer for both. If you're not, like me, you should be a full stack. If you're great at it, you may actually want to be a front end, which, by the way, doesn't prevent you from also learning the server side if you want to.
We should mention that you really don't need to decide at the beginning, because you can go and register for front end, and then we have a very simple upgrade mechanism that allows you to take full stack after that if you decide to. So maybe that's a little bit too much of a decision to take up front, and you can push that to later.
Yeah, great point. So how will you learn? Something that's very important for any student and any graduate is being able to show their portfolio project to potential hiring managers. And throughout our bootcamps, you're going to have a chance to work on 2 to 3 portfolio projects. The very first one will be what we call the learning project. And that's something very important to understand, because that's really what differentiates us from other curriculums or bootcamps out there. The succession of modules that I showed you earlier and the succession of weeks throughout those modules are all building on top of one another throughout what we call a learning portfolio project. And so you're going to build that learning project every week, and you're going to add features every week. So the responsive website you will have built with Bootstrap will be the one you'll package and turn into a mobile app with React Native. So that's one, that's really the learning project. But then on top of that, we're going to ask you to work in a group or solo if you prefer, and build your own project. And that own project, based on your own idea of what you want to build, will follow the same path. So you'll build it, when you learn Bootstrap, you'll build it using Bootstrap. Then when you learn React, you'll build it using React. So that's, if you've counted, that's kind of 3 projects already. Now, when you go on to React Native, that's where you're going to have a decision point. Some students are so involved in building their project in React that they want to finish it in React. Some students are like, yeah, I want to try moving it to React Native, see how it looks. And then they actually stop developing in React and move it to React Native. So that could be a 4th option for you. Now, if you're doing full stack, obviously at the end, you want to tie that back with the server side, the database, the server with Express and Node.js. And so that's something that you will want to kind of closing the loop, I would say, with your project by adding the backend. In terms of schedule, so we've actually made recently a few adjustments. We've added sessions. If you've actually looked at our website, you may have noticed that. September 9th is the next start date for web development fundamentals throughout our community. So it doesn't matter if you're in Newark or Spokane or Baltimore, you will likely start, if you're interested in the web development fundamentals, on September 9th. Today, actually tonight, is the deadline for registering at our early bird price. So you still have a few hours to do that. Starting tomorrow, the pricing will go up to $380. So we have a kind of a 2 weeks window during which the pricing is slightly higher. As Karim said, we have actually a nice coupon code for you that you can use as well. It's going to be helpful no matter when you actually decide to register, either today or tomorrow. And then the next start date for our front-end and full-stack bootcamps are going to be October 7th. So typically, if you're a total beginner, you will want to register for September 9th. And then there's actually a week delta or week delay before October 7th. So you can actually just continue on and do the full stack after that. If you miss those dates, the next web development fundamentals is on October 14th. And then the next front-end and full stack is on November 11th. And again, you have a nice progression. If you start with web development fundamentals on the 14th, October 14th, you'll be able to continue on November 11th. So we, Karim and myself, have talked to you a lot about how we think we're great and NuCamp is great and how we think we really make a difference. It's just us talking. You don't have to trust us, obviously. Maybe you shouldn't trust what we say, or maybe we should. But what we thought was, well, we have great reviews from existing students in Washington State that are out there. Course Report is the #1 third-party website that's really collecting those surveys. We don't pay our students. They are free to write anything they want. And we are really proud of the feedback they have to share with us and with you as well. I think our average rating actually went up since we created that slide. I think it's now at 4.9, which makes us feel really, really good. But instead of me continuing to talk about it, or Karim, what we thought we'll do is simply actually share with you a very short video of Geneva from Marysville, who's really had a great experience with us. So let me actually do that right now. And stay with us, because right after that video, we're going to go into the Q&A. We're going to go through the list of questions that you have there. And we'll also share with you that coupon code that gives you an extra 10% discount. So stay with us. It's a 1.5 minute video, and we'll be right back.
I wanted to look at a career opportunity that would be lucrative. A new camp kind of popped up, and I liked it a lot more than the other ones. I liked that it was more flexible. I didn't have to quit my current job.
They're basically very student-friendly.
And our instructor is awesome, Minay, and she's just really helpful, really above and beyond.
She's very helpful, and every time when I have a question, I can ask her and she can respond. The careers basically has no end. You can grow and grow.
I was really excited. Yeah, in fact, I mean, if anything, I was wanting to do more.
But I really like the way it's been this hybrid learning process.
I love that. I love that it's during the week, because I wouldn't have been able to do it if I had to meet every single day. So I love that I can find childcare on Saturdays, and the rest of the week it's online. But yeah, sometimes I'm doing my homework and I get all excited. I'm like, this could be my life. So it's kind of cool.
All right. So, by the way, there is also another site which is called Switch Up, which has another set of reviews as well. And you'll see as well, we are rated with they have a star system, so we're actually 5 stars out of 5. You'll get more feedback from alumni as well on that website, and hopefully that helps you also make a decision. So with that, let's turn over to questions.
Yes.
We have a few already in the list here, but feel free to add to them as we go through them. Quickly on logistics, there was a few questions around that. So the workshops are on Saturday mornings from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. local time. So that's across all the different cities. And then the follow-up question I see here is, what happens if there aren't enough students? What's the sort of cancellation policy for that? So we currently have as a official policy to cancel a class if we have less than 6 students. And that's basically because with less than 6 students, it's just not very viable economically. We can't cover our costs. So, as much as we have a social mission and we want to make it affordable, we got to be able to cover our costs. And then if we have too few students, it's actually not a very good experience for the students. There's, you work in groups, you work as a small study group. So it's important to have at least a minimum number of students there. Now, in reality, for the first, new cities we launch, we tend to, make some ad hoc decisions to start with less. So sometimes we'll start with 4 or 5. And so we may be able to do that as well in some cases, but our official commitment is to start if we have 6. So, this prompts the other question is, okay, well, what should I do? Because I only see 3 or, already registered, or even 2. And so should I really register for that? It's a bit of a chicken and egg, right? If you don't register, then you're not adding students, and therefore, that class is likely not to start. So obviously we encourage you to register early. We encourage you to register even if there aren't yet the number of students required. if you can afford it, because our cancellation policy is very simple. If there aren't enough students, you're fully refunded if you choose to. No questions asked. You just go on the website, click on cancel, and you'll get your funds back on your credit card basically the next day. I mean, we say 48 hours, but usually it's in a day maximum or two. So if you can afford it, there's really no downside in registering. You're just increasing the chances of that class actually starting. Now, what actually happens if there are not enough students is we roll you over into the next class, which is 5 weeks later. Automatically, we send you an email to inform you that you've been automatically rolled over. And then that's where you can decide, if that doesn't work for you, to wait another 5 weeks to basically cancel and get fully refunded. And you can do that anytime. There's really no risk there. There's one additional option that we want to bring up. That's a recent option we're offering, which is you can decide to switch to a remote workshop program. And so it's not a pure online program like traditional programs. It's the same format. You'll have a dedicated instructor. You'll know him by name, him or her by name. You will be working with that instructor, with your group. Same thing. It will be a small group of actually probably less than 12. We try to make them a little smaller just because they're remote. And then the only difference is that on Saturdays, instead of meeting physically, you meet with your instructor over a video conference. So you'll see your instructor, interact with your instructor over a video conference, and then you'll work with the instructor via screen sharing. We have a dedicated screen sharing mechanism that allows multi-screen sharing for the instructor, so he can track all your work and help you out. And we've run our first program like that actually on August 5th. And it's been very successful. We had really good feedback. So that's another option for those of you who can't wait the 5 weeks to get rolled over, or maybe for some, you feel that there's just not enough demand in your city by the looks of it, and you're sort of wondering if that next program will really take place. Then if you don't want to, if you still want to stick with us, then you have that online option, which is very similar to our traditional options.
I'll just add to that the class size remains the same. So you're still with maximum of 12 students and an instructor. So even though it's remote workshop, we don't expend too much. Same logic. And it's actually taught by some of our senior instructors that are based here in Washington that, have been teaching for a number of months now. So you're also guaranteed to have the best instructor possible for that format. All right, moving on. Yeah, I see a question from Juan Antonio Villarreal. How do I get the coupon that I got recently? That should be in your email, Juan. And if you actually cannot find it, we'll be happy to send it over to you again, but it should be in your email.
Yeah, if not, just shoot us an email at info@newcam.co.
That's right. I'll take the one from Richard Broyles regarding how do we help students prepare for interviews for companies such as Google, Microsoft, etc. A lot of companies are testing candidates using data structures and algorithms. Richard, that's a great question, because we actually recommend to our graduates to avoid trying to get into the big top tech companies at first. So typically Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Amazon, they will have very high levels of requirements to get a software engineer job with them. Think about, the developers that are over there are really at what we call the top of the pyramid. They are the people that are going to work on the Google search algorithm, Windows operating system. And it would not be fair for us to tell our students that, yeah, of course, go ahead, you can have a job over there. They will spend cycles, they will be demotivated because it's actually too hard, especially just getting out of the gate of a coding bootcamp. So you should really recognize, and we recognize, that when a student finishes our coding bootcamp, that student is a junior web developer, which is already great. There's a ton of opportunities out there. And it also doesn't mean that that person will not have a chance to interview and be ready for a job at Google and Microsoft down the road. It has happened, it will happen again, but not right off the gate. Right off the gate, we really encourage our students to follow a few paths that are actually, many want to become freelance. Many really find valuable to work from home. They go on Upwork, which is a freelance type of network, and they actually start to build their reputation, their experience by doing that. We also recognize that any industry and any company those days is also a digital company, meaning that what we used to call an IT department in a company in the day, like 20 years ago, like every job is an IT type of jobs. And so there's a ton of opportunities in traditional companies to get started and get a job as a web developer or junior web developer. And then there's the startup world. Startups who are often limited by cash and options will actually be welcoming new graduates and will want to take a bet on those new graduates and help them actually grow, and you will put them in touch with more senior developers, for example. So that's kind of a long answer to your question. I hope it answers it though.
Yeah, I'll give you an example, because yesterday I was actually at a just youth sport event, and one of the other coaches that works in a consulting firm local here in Seattle came up to me and told me, hey, we're looking for junior web developers to help on one of our teams with a client to do some basically web development work for that client. Under the supervision, of a team leader, et cetera, et cetera. Do you have any graduates that, would be interested? So that's a typical example. It's a junior level position. It's in a smaller company. It's actually a consulting firm. It would be working for, a traditional medium-sized business that needs to build up their website. That's a great, I think, opportunity for, people coming out of the boot camp. And, after a few years, as Luda mentioned, you can then, compete with other candidates at Google and Microsoft based on the work you've done, not based on, your college degree, because, that's the reality. A lot of those big tech companies are looking for computer science degrees, at least for, recent graduates.
Yeah, very, very good point. Yeah, we're looking forward to start in Baltimore as well, Scott. Thanks for that. I'll take Elle's question regarding Angular.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not familiar, and maybe I'm actually guessing many of the people listening right now are not familiar with Angular. Angular is similar to React and React Native. Instead of being developed by Facebook, it is still developed by Google himself. And I would say, yes, you should still bother learning Angular. I'm a big Angular fan. Actually, our website, www.newcamp.co, is built using Angular and Ionic. And the reason why I say that is Angular and React both share JavaScript as the foundation. And I would say JavaScript ES5 or ES6. And if you learn Angular, you're going to learn JavaScript. You're going to learn JavaScript ES6. And so what you're going to learn in Angular is going to be beneficial for what you learn with React. And there's also a little bit of philosophical differences in the industry, where some companies will prefer React, some companies will prefer Angular. Actually, knowing a little bit of both could actually help you there. So yeah, you should certainly continue to bother learning Angular if you have the time and passion.
And just to clarify, the reason that we have moved our curriculum to React is just based on market demand. There's a lot of Angular development, happening out there, but today there's a lot more demand, a lot more positions open around React, and that's why we've moved to offer React, just to give more chances to our graduates. We have a question from Ernest. Can we take the last module, the server side module, a few weeks or months after the front end module? So that brings up just a comment on the fact that some of our students need to take a pause sometimes in the curriculum, just because, again, something comes up at work, they've got a new project, or a family situation. So they don't want to quit, but they have to put things on hold. So we allow for that. There's a fee for that. It's actually $99 to postpone a class. But again, that gives you the option to continue later. I think if you know exactly what you're planning to do, we'd probably be able to waive the fee for you. So just let us know, and we'll figure something out for you.
Do you want to take the question from Joshua regarding instructors that are listed in Arkansas?
Sure. Yeah. So the question, I'm just scrolling here.
Right after the one. Yeah.
Yeah. So we display on the website two sort of types of instructors, if you like. We first screen and select a pool of instructors that we feel are really strong candidates for teaching in a particular location. And that's what you're going to see under a potential instructor displayed on the website. And then what we do is when we get to actually scheduling the class, we will go through interviewing the instructor for that specific class. So, the specific skill set, whether it's the web development fundamentals, or whether it's for a React class or a Node.js class, it's not the same skill set that are required. So we go through a more thorough interview process. And once they start teaching a class, that's when they actually, get a label that says, instructor. And usually it's instructor since, and there's a date there. So that's just to clarify a little bit who's who on our website.
Yeah, and just to add to that, we are starting, actually our first delivery was in October 5th. And so not every instructor had a chance to start a delivery just yet. So that's going to evolve over time, obviously.
Yeah, if you want to look at some of our instructors just for, having a more sort of a better feel for their background, you can actually go check some of our locations in Washington State. So go to Tacoma, go to Seattle, and then you'll see the instructors that have taught, their backgrounds, how long they've taught for us, et cetera, et cetera.
I'll take the one from Christian on, I need a new laptop. Do you recommend Mac or PC? Either one will work. We can make it work for Mac or PC. I've worked 18 years at Microsoft, so you know what I would actually recommend myself. But Karim,
I hate Microsoft and I hate PCs. I only work on Macs, so yeah, pick your choice. There's no preference there.
Yeah. In terms of specs, though, so Mac is pretty straightforward. I think if you buy any recent Mac, that will work. PC. We actually just recently looked into it again because some people want clearer guidelines. So if you pick something that is 3 years old or newer, and with the following specs, and shoot me an email if you don't remember them, but typically it will be an Intel Core i5. It will be a minimum of 8 gig of memory. And we will recommend an SSD hard drive, although a traditional hard drive will work as well. Now, there's a nuance to that we actually don't necessarily write down because it could become complicated, but I'll share it live. The specs for the laptop that I just gave you are really so that it can last until the last module of full stack. And I mean by that when you're doing Node.js, Express, and MongoDB, you're running both a website on your laptop and a database on your laptop, and actually you have a ton of stuff running. So that's really when it's the most demanding for your laptop. Now, the specs that I just gave you for just the web development fundamentals are just really, it's kind of overpowered. So think about, are you really investing for the long run, or are you just investing for, just the fundamentals? So I hope that helps and not confuses more.
All right, we have a lot of questions here, so we're going to try to go through them as best we can in the 15 minutes we have. So a question we have on online classes. So how do they work? I think we've covered that. Mohammed, if you have follow-up questions, just shoot us an email at info@newcam.co. Bootcamp in Atlanta, is there one? Yes, there is. If you go on the website and you go on the community tab or page, and choose change change community, you can just type in text for the city or a zip code, and it will pop up the available boot camps, the available cities around you. So definitely one in Atlanta. Can I use the coupon if I already registered? No, unfortunately. But if you registered already, you got you took advantage of the 20% early bird discount. So you got a pretty good price already. Following up, can you make up Saturday classes if you missed a Saturday workshop? No, you can't make up a class because we're on a schedule and the schedule keeps moving. That's part of the whole model, is to make sure you keep moving, so you actually get at the end of the program after 5 months. You can skip or miss a workshop, but you have to make it up yourself, at home during the Sunday or early in the week. You've got to submit your assignment because to graduate you have to have completed all your assignments. So if you get organized to get the work of the workshop done outside the workshop, yes, that's absolutely possible. We don't recommend missing more than just one workshop maybe over the duration of a class. If you start to plan to miss 2 workshops out of 4, I would recommend that you use the option to postpone and so that you can actually really do the full class.
Yeah.
Are there any other times besides Saturday mornings, perhaps afternoons? No, not at this time. We've experimented with afternoons. There's not enough demand, and I understand that for some people it's unfortunately the only option, but the reality is we're not able to run programs in the afternoon for now. We'll revisit that maybe in a year or 2 when we have more volume.
I'll take Dylan's one. What online platform is used for learning? So we have a combination of our own proprietary platform that is used to register students, where students can interact with instructors, where our full curriculum is available, the weekly progression, their certificates and the badges, etc. We also leverage existing online curriculum to some extent. So sometimes you're actually asked to go to Coursera or YouTube to get some of the content. Although we're also mixing that up, we're producing more and more of our own content as well.
Okay, what grade do you need to pass? The requirement to pass is, I think, 5 or 6 out of 10.
Yeah, it's a minimum of 6 out of 10.
But more importantly, is completing all of the assignments.
That's right.
That's what we're expecting. And what we find is that usually if you complete all the assignments, you're above 6 because you put in the work and the effort. It's really more, making sure you do complete all of them. And then we have an honor certificate, which is, above and beyond completing the assignments and having more than 6 out of 10. It's actually submitting a project, presenting it, and submitting it to the group at graduation. Do you have job fairs or job placement? So we have, as part of the boot camp and in the price, an online sort of a career support program that will take you through the basics of building your LinkedIn, your resume, networking, preparing for interviews. It's actually a 6-week program. You can condense it in less if needed. So that's one important resource that you have to prepare for interviewing and for finding a job. The other thing is, we find that through the community, there's a lot of networking that's taking place, and so the opportunity to what the best job fairs are in your local community, what events are coming up. Students share that among themselves, and more importantly, they connect with instructors. That's one thing I want to highlight, is our instructors are not traditional teachers. They're not from academia. They're from the software development industry. We actually look for people who have a full-time job, or at least work in software development. And so you'll find either instructors that are plugged into local tech companies, or that work as independent web developers. So they know the market. They are also going to be able to help you and sort of guide you and help you network. And that's a really important resource. as our students have found.
How much JavaScript knowledge is required for the front-end course? So we actually have a test out there. I know last time I tried to put a URL in the chat window, it will not allow me. So you probably want to go onto our website, look for the FAQ, and there's a link to the test. It's a 25-question test that will take you about 20-30 minutes to do. And we evaluate that if your score is below 85% of correct answers, then you will need to take the Web Development Fundamentals Bootcamp to be prepared. And that test actually is heavy on JavaScript questions, so that's why I'm actually mentioning it. So you need to have a good amount of JavaScript knowledge to start the front-end course. And if you don't know if you have it, just take that test, and then you'll know if you need to attend the Web Development Fundamentals workshop.
All right, Rodrigo is asking, what supplies do I need to start? So you need a laptop, and Ludo shared the specs. Don't forget, if it's an older laptop or it has some issues, you need a webcam and a microphone and headset. And the reason is it's just in case of backup. If we have an issue with an instructor, we can switch you online for that session immediately. We're organized to do that. We have backup plans in place for that if in case of problem. But you need to be able to interact remotely. So make sure to have that. And then my personal, favorite is coffee. A lot of coffee. It's a Saturday morning. It's a long session, so I suggest coffee and snacks. But that's really all you need. There's no software required.
There is, but it's free. So
free, yeah.
And we'll a part of the very first week is to have you install those software. So.
All right, and then can I moved to a different city that's close to me if the initial city doesn't fill up? Yes, absolutely, and we can handle that on case-by-case basis. Just shoot us an email at at info@newcam.co, and we can handle that. Is there a break around the holidays? Not really. So just look at the exact dates of the camps and then see if it works for you. We try to avoid the Christmas, New Year sort of period, but there's still, I think, at least one boot camp that has part of it in that period. So make sure you check that it's working with your schedule. Is there a minimum for the online class? No, there is no minimum. The online class, we'll make it work one way or another because we're able to reshuffle students to make sure we have enough in the classes. Yeah. So the online classes are guaranteed basically to start. So
is there a link for the online remote program? So you can actually find those online communities. That's how we call them. When you change community, if you type in online, you'll see that we've organized those communities by time zone. And so you can check them out. Everything else remaining the same. There's no specific detail about the formula. As we said, it's really about bringing the workshop to a remote environment versus an in-person environment.
Is it the same price? Yes, it is. It's the same price. It's actually the same cost to us too, because you still have an instructor. I mean, the only thing that there's not is the workshop location, but we've got additional things to put in place. So yeah, it is the same price. I need to talk with my friends. However, your offer expires in a few hours. This coupon is valid for the next edition. So let's make it clear, today is the early bird price. That expires tonight. There's no way around that. We need to keep that on our schedule. So the early bird expires. However, the coupon code is definitely valid even if you register after that, and that's an additional 10%. So basically you get a 29% discount if you register today with early bird and the coupon, and you get a 10% discount if you register starting tomorrow.
That's right.
And then let's see here.
Oh, what if you need to talk to someone about covering the cost for full stack? Sure, we can talk to someone. We've actually done that. We see Amazon employees actually are starting to come to us. They're taking advantage of a program that Amazon has for his field called Career Choice. So you may be referring to that or not, but in any case, we can take third-party payments It's not as straightforward as putting your credit card in, of course, but we are set up to do that.
Yeah, and the full stack program is still under early bird for a little bit of time.
Oh, yeah, that's
so
right.
You've got time for that. The early bird expires just for the web fundamentals that is starting on September 9th. So that's you've got time for the other one. And then let's see. A lot of questions. I'm trying to browse through here.
There's one for Detroit. Let me actually put it up here.
Yeah, so there are a lot of questions that are specific to how many people in the different communities. Let me give you a little trick here for you to check by yourself. If you go to the community page and then you click on the bootcamp, you'll see those little avatars, those little circles with people inside. If it's a full line circle, it means it's a registered person. If it's a dotted circle, it means it's somebody who's expressed interest but hasn't registered yet. So that helps you understand, how many people are actually fully registered and how many people are interested and are still considering registering.
So for Detroit, we actually have a lot of people interested, which is a good indicator that we may be able to start on September 9th, and we have 2 people registered. So 33 people have expressed interest for that bootcamp. So again, that's a really good indicator that we have a high chance of starting. And so if you're hesitating to register, I will just suggest to do it. And as Karim mentioned earlier, we have a full reimbursement policy that no question asked, you can just get your money back or be rolled over to the next session. So there's no real risk associated, and you will increase the chance of us getting started there. We are coming to Pittsburgh, I think, or aren't we?
I need to check on that one.
Yeah.
Hey, one for you from Casey is, how does your curriculum compare to an App Academy or a Hack Reactor like curriculum?
That's a great question. Great question. And so it's tough for us being kind of quote unquote competitors to sneak into what they're doing and do a comparison apple to apple. So I'll give you more of a general answer as to how our students are saying we compare with what they've experienced in other places. What people are telling us is they really appreciate the fact that we are going very deep. And we're going very deep because our learning project is really building up on top of itself week after week after week. And that's what I hear, a big difference from what you may find in other bootcamps, which are more about, weekly tutorial of doing interesting stuff, but not necessarily really connecting everything together to make something whole. And so that's really what we're, and when I actually looked for curriculums, that was really my guiding principle of, I want really our students to not have just a veneer of understanding, but go real deep into the technology and using really a learning project that starts and finishes throughout the curriculum, I will say. So if it wasn't clear, that project really is upgraded and improved every week. Same project every week. So yeah. I hope that answers it.
Yeah, and actually, the other part is our instructors. Again, they are practitioners. They're people that are in the industry. So even the way they teach is with a mindset of giving you practical tools that you would be actually using in a work environment. So it's not a a theoretical course like a computer science course. Not at all. It's very practical. So that's something also to keep in mind. We've got questions on just the timing of the web fundamentals and the front end full stack. So yeah, it is organized in a way that when you're finished with the web fundamentals, you've got a week break and then you go into the front end. So there's no overlap and you can definitely take the two.
Hey, real quick, Cass Earn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 9. Is this really live? Yes, it is.
And then so what if you register to the online course, then it won't matter how many people register for the course, correct? Yes, that's correct. Because again, we have an ability to group students from across the country. So we're not stuck with, hey, we need, minimum requirement in a particular geography. So we definitely can guarantee that the online courses will take place. Yes.
We're almost on the hour, at the top of the hour right now.
So this presentation is definitely recorded. So you will have the link to it.
It's actually the same link.
Okay, so if you click on the same link, you'll be able to replace some of it. And then, once again, if there are additional questions that come up, don't hesitate. Shoot them at info@newcam.co. We'll look at them. We'll answer as best we can. So, with that, let's wrap it up. We'll be just want to respect your time. Thanks for, being with us for this full hour. Remember to register today if you want to take advantage of the early bird pricing. And then, talk to your friends, talk to people who might be interested around you. We'd really appreciate your support in making our program better known in your community. So feel free to share on your preferred social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, anything you can do to help us spread the word and make our affordable program more visible out there would be really great. And we thank you in advance for that. So with that, you have a great day, and we hope to see you soon in one of our boot camps. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.